beep, beep. What is up, ninjas? My name is Sam Roll, and today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to use Foley in your music. If you're making trap, future bass, hip-hop, chill stuff, deep house, even dance music, some sort, you're going to find Foley folders sometimes in your samples, and it might be some guy just like scratching the microphone, doing some ASMR kind of stuff, and you're like, what the fuck is this for? Now, Foley is used after a guy named James Foley, and the purpose of Foley in movies, for example, is when they record something, they want the highest quality. If someone's moving a cup or something across the table, some animations don't come with sounds, obviously, so someone has to create sounds to make something come to life, and that's where Foley plays a huge role. However, in music, we use it a little bit differently. We can use Foley to create texture beats, add a bit of texture to a clap, add a bit of humanizing elements. You can also use Foleys that are weird, scratching sounds, and all over the place to create cool rhythms, as I'm going to show you guys today in the video. As always, guys, if you want to support my channel, make sure to head over to evilsounds.com. I'm going to be releasing a serum sound set called Exploration for those of you guys making chill stuff and doing a deep progressive house, even driving progressive house. There's some dope sounds in there, so make sure to check it out. And if you want to support my channel, that is the best way to do it. And with that being said, let's get straight into this tutorial. Now, the first way you can use Foley, guys, is you can utilize the long Foleys to create rhythms in your track, textured style of rhythms. And I'm going to show you guys how you can do that. So here we have something from Cymatics, and I use a lot of their Foleys. I think they're one of the first companies that I know of that started putting a lot of Foley stuff in some of their packs. So here we have something called Metal Water Bottle Ball Inside number 5. Okay, and we're just going to drop that in. Ableton's going to warp it for us, I think, and it's going to sound like this. Well, it doesn't make any sense in relation to our song, so now we're going to make it make sense, okay? So what we're going to do first is we're going to warp this so that it actually makes sense rhythmically, and it's just not a random guy shaking a water bottle and making sound with it. So what we're going to do is just, again, we're going to warp this and just beat match it to the best. So try and make a rhythm with it. That is essentially what you want to do. Ableton's going to put some gray markers there, as you can see, that kind of told you this is a good spot to warp, Sam. And I'm like, no. But a lot of times they are. So we're just going to follow Ableton's guidelines here and just create like a beat with this. So this guy can actually go there. We're going to move this here. We're going to have this big one there. And then we can see here this guy here, this guy here. Let's put this guy there. Again, you know, I'm just trying to get this on beat for it to make sense. Now, once I have this and this guy, let's put it here. It's going to sound like this. It might sound a bit stretched, but we're going to fix all that. Just keep that in. All right, and then we can loop that if you want. You're like, okay, I think that sounds good. It's starting to make a lot more sense now, okay? Now, the other thing I don't like about these sometimes is you have a bit too much information in between these transients, like these little things, which can actually sound good and give more texture, but we want to kind of fine-tune this. So Ableton has this great beats transients thing that sort of acts like a gate cutoff in a way. So as I pull this down, this is going to shorten this, so it's not so like, but more like, which is going to help us out. Okay, so you can see that kind of helps a bit there, and it's starting to make a little bit more sense. So let's lower it down just a bit more. Okay, cool. Now, with a lot of these things, sometimes they might have a key to them. And it doesn't mean like a key as in like, oh, it's tonal. But a lot of times these things have resonations in them. And you want to make sure that they're in key. So this track, I believe, is an E minor. So I'm going to see where this is landing on. What's the main frequency that it has, the fundamental of it. So right now, as I see, you can see both points. It's in E. And it's going to be in C, which is good because I'm in E minor and both those notes are going to be in the scale, so it's not going to sound too off. However, I find that it's a bit too high pitched for my taste, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to consolidate all of this I did already together. You're going to see the changes that happened, so you can see that Ableton actually got those and shortened them for me. And then I'm just going to transpose down by -12 or -5 would be a good one, as that's the perfect fifth. But we're going to go 12 and see what it sounds like. And we're actually going to go into Complex Pro here and move the formants down. Now it's time to EQ this. So we're actually going to go EQ it, and our goal is to just make it fit as best as we can. Okay, now a lot of this has like reverb and stuff, so we are going to add a bit of reverb just to put it in a room, just to kind of make it. And then we're going to add a bit of delay. Now, the thing I like about delay is that it can make something like this that sounds too like robotic, like sound more like you're adding a new rhythmic source to the track, essentially delay, like. But it can work really good even with the default preset. You're going to see what it does, and we're going to ping pong it so that it kind of bounces left and right. There's a frequency in it I'm not liking. I believe it's here, so I'm just going to EQ that out. And that's the good thing about this. I can actually do it. So that way it doesn't sound too nasty. Okay, so that is the first way to use Foley, guys. I'm not gonna lie, when you try this out, sometimes you might create stuff that's like you cannot get it to sound right, and sometimes you will. It's all about experimenting and again doing cool stuff like this. Now, the last thing I do want to say is that there are other options you can do when you downpitch or when you do stuff with this. You can introduce a little bit of granular synthesis into the equation by using the texture or the tones mode inside of Ableton. So in textures, you're going to have your grain size. So essentially, it's how much you're going to spread this out. So if you have this whole file, the higher the grade size, the bigger the amount it's going to grab. And then the flux is just going to modulate the timing. So you can get some cool stuff with. Like, let's say we go super low so that we get little parts of it, and then we modulate the crap out. It gets it a little bit off because, again, it's changing the timing, but it can also introduce some good syncopation and stuff like that. So that is the first way to use Foley. The next thing we can do with Foley is layer them with drums or use them as drums themselves. So here I have 3 layers for a clap, which are all going to be made out of Foley. You can consider the 4th one as well there. But in essence, it's going to sound like this in a track. Okay. Now, when you're layering like Foley stuff, you always have to think of it like, what is this Foley adding to a clap? Like, what I mean by that is, I first started off with this clap, which was just a wood pow hit, which I thought sounded cool. Instead of using a rim shot, use a wood pow hit, whatever that means, which sounds like a rim shot, honestly. I wanted a bit of texture. There's some tracks that have these crunchy claps. So this is another clap, found clap, which sounds like someone scratching leaves or something. Okay, so that's layered, and then we got a weighty clap, which is going to give more of the pump on that, and a little bit of texture as well underneath it. And then reversing that found clap again, just to do the traditional shift, to kind of get, so that way when we do it and have the drums play. So Foley is another way that you can use Foley. It's just to layer drums. You can use it on the kick as well. I believe the kick here has also a Foley of intense leaves, and I don't know why I did this. I guess it just made the kick sound a little bit more natureful, because I've been into nature stuff. You can see the name of the track is called Beautiful Nature Shit #5. But I just really like these kind of stuff. It just sounds a little bit more organic thanks to it. So the kick is actually just a normal synth-based kick. And then we got the... So that way together it kind of gives the kick a bit of a weird... So it's a good way, you know, you can layer Foleys with drums to kind of create that cool vibe. Another possibility that you can use Foleys for. Now, another way to use Foley, and this is a little bit more advanced, just due to the fact that there's a lot of things that have to fall right into place for this to actually work. So here I have a shot from Cymatics, which sounds like this. If you hear it closely, there's a bit of a tonal vibe to it. So what I mean by that is that it actually has sort of like a melody to it, a tone, like someone's playing G when they're hitting the fucking, whatever this is called, I guess it's a hit or something. So we're going to drop that into sampler and we're going to play it. Now, the cool thing about sampler is that it actually speeds up the sample to create the illusion of the frequency getting higher, and it slows it down to go lower pitch. So you can actually get melody with it as you start to move it around. Now, what I like to do is I like to use a spectrum to see where the meat of this sound is to kind of figure out the key it's in. Usually, the biggest giveaway is whatever is super high up. So you're going to see like a mountain. So as I hit this, you can see it's hitting E4. And then we got like an E5. So we can confidently say this is an E. So I'm playing G as I'm hitting this, and I want it to be in G. So I'm going to lower the root key here till I get it in G, which A was there. So we just moved it down a bit, and now we got it where we need it. Now from here, you're going to process the sound how you would normally process any. The reason I say this is more advanced too is because you have to do a bit more of heavier processing to actually get something that you can use in a track. But once you figure it out and you can actually do it, you're going to get stuff that you can actually, again, use in a song. So we're going to do that, increase volume. Okay, we're going to maybe distort. And now we're going to EQ. The reason is that we're going to get rid of lows because you can see this is a very dirty sound and we don't want any of that low end. Maybe some of the highs can go away as well. Now from there, we're going to add a bit of reverb and then just shape it however you want. So now, the cool thing about Ableton is it has this dope feature in it where you can FM any sample. So here I have FM on now, and I'm going to route a sine into it. We get that. Let's go with the saw. And now let's increase maybe the quartz, which is the FM ratio. Now maybe one pitch down or me. We can widen it. We can add pitch modulations to it. We can mess with this more to create really nasty sounds. Again, the key thing with that is that, I guess you can hear the sound starts to get a bit thin, it starts to sound so. You really have to put in the work to get good stuff out of it. There are going to be friendlier sounds you can definitely use, but if you're making stuff like trap or hybrid trap where it's all about the sound design, this is a great tool to just start to do stuff that not a lot of people are doing to get something different. And once you get it, you're going to be like, motherfucking set, thank you for teaching me this. But that is going to be the next way to do it, guys. This is another way you can use Foley. Now, using Foley can also work as atmospheres for your track. So I'll show you guys two examples here. As cliche it may be, I know a lot of people don't like the Cashmere Animal calls, but one of the things I use for atmosphere to add sort of like a little cue for people to know, okay, the break has started is, for instance, an animal cry from the Cashmere. So that kind of lets people know the breakdown started. So again, if you're making nature stuff or chill stuff, you can definitely use stuff like that. In bass house, they use the siren like bam, bam, to let people know the second drop happened. But another way too is to apply like life recordings like Cymatics did, or a lot of companies have those atmospheres from the rainforest, waves, blah, blah, blah. You can use those, for instance, like little birds chirping in the background, people, just to create atmosphere again. another great way to use Foley, obviously, as atmosphere and little cues like that. Another way I like to use it too is for uplifters and downlifters, which I call my own unique way. I don't know if anyone has ever done it, but I personally like to use little like waterfalls or water sounds to create uplifters, as they have sort of white noise characteristics. For instance, here, that is just a waterfall going down. But of course, with a good amount of reverb and audio manipulation, you can get it to sound like a make it sound like sort of like a downlifter. That's just my own thing, but if you like it, you can also do it. But again, just use Foley kind of creatively. Like, what can I use it for? An uplifter, maybe I can use it to add little cues, create a bass shot, whatnot. But those are cool things to use Foley for. And finally, guys, the last thing you can use Foley for is actually for sound design. Let's say you have a bass, or let's say you want to create something with this sort of tone to it. You can use Foley to accentuate a sound. For instance, here we have this sound, and that's going to be in the pack exploration called Save the Amazon. The reason I called it that is because it has such a very jungle vibe to it. And the reason for that is that the noise sample, which sounds like this, and then layering that with a sub, helps create that. So you can use noises or Foley recordings as sort of like transient shapers, or not transient shapers, but creating the transient of a sound to give it that effect. Because here, honestly, this is just a sine wave. But the fact that that knock from that drum is on top of it, essentially it's someone hitting like a wood box of sorts. It creates that nice kind of sound to the bass. The problem with that, as you can hear, is that when you start to switch, you can kind of start to hear how it starts to pitch up and down. So it sounds a little corny now and then, but if you can execute it properly, if you're not moving around that much, it's another great way to just add a bit of extra flavor to your sounds and make them sound a little bit more organic and not so synthy. But with that being said, guys, those are all the ways you can utilize Foley, again, to accentuate your music, to use in your own productions. Make sure that when you buy a sample pack, you pay $50 for it, that you're using everything, and they're utilizing the most underused portion of them, which is the Foley side. Actually has a lot, as you can see. You can layer with drums, you can use for atmosphere, you can create textured drums, you can layer with sounds, you can use for background atmospheres, and vice versa. The topics we talked about in this video. I'm sure there's countless other ways to utilize it, and if you guys have any cool ways to do that, you can comment down below what you do exactly. But these are my techniques that I use for Foley myself, for my music, the nature stuff you just heard. With that being said, guys, again, Exploration will be coming out at the end of this week, and as always, thank you guys for supporting my work, and without you guys, I wouldn't be able to make videos weekly for you. So if you like it, make sure to support, and I'll catch you guys next time. Have fun producing, be safe, and have a great rest of your day.